Scott Capelin here from InLife Wellness and InLife Coaching, sitting down today with Troy Phillips. We're going to ask Troy a bunch of questions about health and wellness and life. He can be philosophical at times, so we'll hopefully have a couple of good answers, mate. But I think we met late 90s, 99. I recall I was in my early 20s trying to go for a home loan as a casual employee and pretty much failed a lot of the criteria, but thanks to you, got over the line. And then after that, we started working together in a health and fitness capacity. I think I remember you were about 123 kilos. You got down to 111. And over the last 20 years, you've had some ups and downs with your weight, not so much your health or fitness or your life. I often think of you as an example of someone who's never had a problem motivation-wise with exercise. But it's just these last few years in particular where you've taken your weight from 136 to 102, and I always say the best results look like when someone's doing it easy, but it's not that it's been easy, it's just been so consistent. So, I mean, have you had any health and fitness epiphanies the last few years, or just changed the way you look at your exercise and nutrition?
I think a bit of both. I think as you get older, you have epiphanies because you see people that you know and they've been friends for life have heart attacks and other illnesses, and you look at yourself and you go, in your mind as a man, you always think you're the same bloke that looked in the mirror 20 years ago, but you're not. So when you see major health crisis hit people that you know and you love, you think, well, it's now time to get that in order, because it's about living a long, healthy life, not about how you look. So that was sort of something that changed me. And over those years, from being a young guy at 20s when I was fit, I've been as low as 90 kilos, and I've got over the 130. But when I trained, I never trained to. I felt really good sometimes when I was 120, 125 kilos. I felt fantastic about myself. So it was never about how I looked or how I felt. It was just about lifestyle for me. Okay.
What do you mean, nutrition or alcohol, or do you mean like living a quality life as you do get into your 50s?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think, look, your nutrition and alcohol just changes as you get older. Like, I used to look at guys that got to 50 and thought they didn't drink as much beer, and I thought they were fairies. But as you get older, you don't drink as much beer because you've probably got the T-shirt by then. You've done enough of that. You start to enjoy nicer wine, and you've had that many conversations with the same people in pubs. You sort of start to think, well, there's other things to do in life. So it's just life just steers you away from that. Yeah. So they're the easy things to get rid of, unless you're like one of those. I was never a guy that came home and had 6 beers every night or anything else. I was once a week, but it was either none or 100.
And what about these days? What does a week of exercise or just basically activity look like for you?
Well, these days, I've always been really structured in Mex, as you know.
So run through it Monday to Sunday.
So on Monday I'd wake up, and April and I, these days we go for a really long walk. April's my wife, and she keeps good tabs on me. We go for a walk, and then I'll do Pilates on a Monday. I try to keep it pretty easy. On a Tuesday it'll be a walk early in the morning, then boxing. Wednesday I love to play, these days I've earned the right, I love to play a bit of golf in the first group at about 6:30 in the morning on a Wednesday, and that involves a walk. Thursday's group PT with a good bunch of guys I love training with. Followed by a coffee. Fridays is a bit of weights with another guy that I do the group PT with. Saturday can be another long walk, and then I'll play golf Saturdays if I'm lucky enough to get in these days. It's so busy. And Sundays, April and I'll go for another walk together as well.
Okay.
So I keep it pretty simple, and I keep it stuff that I can do and I like.
Yep. So there's a fairly decent volume of relatively low impact activity.
Yeah, low impact. I don't want to do any. There's no more deadlifts. I'm bringing back some weights, but there's no more setting records on the bench press or buys and tries for me. It's actually it's all functional stuff that means I can move. Yep. I'd prefer to put body weight squats and push-ups and that sort of stuff into my exercise regime these days than sit there and punch out bench press on a bench. And I think COVID sort of changed my mind on that stuff as well, because you couldn't do it.
So the big one that probably resonates with a lot of people, probably 95% of people I meet want to lose some weight. Could be 2 kilos, 5 kilos, could be 30 kilos. But I remember, I don't know if it was 5 years ago, when we brought up the topic of the morning fast and not eating much in the morning. And it's a bit like when you tell a bloke in his 50s to do Pilates, they look at you like you're an alien. But you slowly started to push brekkie back a bit later, get through the morning on a couple of coffees, and now you'll go some days and your first meal can be 1 or 2 p.m. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I try to wait till 1:30 for my first meal, but I was never a big breakfast person anyway. Yep. And then when I'm a slow learner, but when I finally worked out calorie deficit, I thought, well, I can just go to lunchtime without having anything. Like 3 coffees. Getting rid of milk in coffee was hard. Replace it with oat milk or like an ink stain of cream. So that's easy to do after a while, but the milk was a hard one, but I don't miss it. You don't miss it. You sort of become a connoisseur of like, short blacks and ristrettos and everything else. You sort of think you're an Italian connoisseur after a while.
Ink stains are Troy's nickname for the black coffee with the dash of cream.
I didn't make that up. My wife made up the ink stain.
But that's cool. Takes a bit of the bitterness out of the coffee. But if I had a signature food plan for, I guess, weight loss and even energy and mental acuity, it'd be, get through the morning on coffees and water, meal 1, sometime around midday, afternoon tea, and then meal 2. But sometimes you go 2 meals. I think last week when I saw you on Tuesday, we boxed at 2 p.m. You'd had a banana up until then.
But vice versa, I think people can have, if you don't like dinner, have a big breakfast and a lunch and then just miss something at the end of the day.
Miss something. So it's not so much a debate, but over the years, some people question the whole calorie in, calorie out thing, but you think the calorie deficit is a key to lose weight?
Well, if you're not playing sport and you're not training that way, it's probably the smartest way to do it.
Yep, yeah.
And I think these days, the world's changed. People are more conscious of health and everything else, and there's not as many long lunches and that sort of stuff these days because people are just well aware that, healthy mind is ensures that at work you're on point. I think the world's heading that way. You just have to pick up the papers these days. It's there's health and wellness is all over the place.
What about when your weight did blow out or something that you weren't comfy with? You saw an endocrinologist. Was there a reason for that? Did you think you might have had hormonal issues?
Well, mate, I always had a big wardrobe, but when you start to hit the top end of the wardrobe, there's sort of a barrier. You don't want to go any bigger than. You got the big, the medium, and the small, but there's no room in the wardrobe. So it was at a point where I actually always trained really hard. So I was always someone who trained with structure, and I tried to watch what I eat. And I suppose I got to eating later at night and I was doing all the wrong exercise. I was doing like heavy weights and, eating carbs late at night, which I saw nothing wrong with because when I was in my, 20s, 30s, early 40s, it didn't worry me because I could out-train a big diet. But April said to me once, like, babe, you're training really hard and you don't overeat. Something's got to give. I think she felt sorry for me and she goes, you got to go to a doctor. I think you could have sort of insulin resistance. I didn't know what it was, or you could have high cortisol, which is like, the high cortisol level means you're putting on weight. There's something not entirely right. So I went and did all these different tests and I didn't have insulin resistance or high cortisol or anything else. I just had a bad diet at the end of the day, I'd say, for my body. So I went through all the tests and I wasn't diabetic or anything else, which was great. So I went to an endocrinologist. And there's all sorts of ways they can give you, tablets to stop your appetite to start and everything else. So that's a start. But you know what it is? It's just accountable when you go to them. If you get I got the right guy. He's a bloke. He was a young endocrinologist, and he looked after April's father, Al, and his name was Dr. Bobby Chan. And I sort of clicked with him, and you sort of feel it's like you feel accountable to someone. I felt accountable that if you're going to go back every 4 months to see him, you want to at least do what he tells you to do. So it's more about diet. He'll tell you to have a crack at doing some keto. He'll explain stuff. And if you stick to it like 5 days a week or 6 days a week for a while, you get results. So I think it was more accountability. And the good thing was I didn't have any major health issues because I was going through a phase where I got my heart checked and everything else because I got to that age at 50 where I wanted to make sure I was actually healthy. I wasn't just kidding myself. Because when you look in the mirror, you're never as fat as you think you are. You always look like, it's like Shallow Hal, isn't it? I was looking in there, I didn't look any different. Look back at photos, but that's how, you still think you look good. I never had any self-confidence issues.
No, you never lack confidence. But so what does a day of eating look like for you at the moment?
I generally pretty structured on, I'll have coffee in the morning, coffee mid-morning, grab something at about 1:30, which could be like a chicken salad or something like that. And then, dinner is always pretty healthy. I think on the weekend, on Sundays, I like to call it a day of eat, where I'll actually eat whatever I want. I'll really go hard. Because you've got to do that. You can't, if it's not sustainable, you won't do it. No,
so it's not perfect, you're not freaky about it, it's just sensible.
I'm not perfect. If it's something come up in the middle of the week or on a weekend, I'd do it. I'm not perfect about it because I'm not training for anything. I'm not an Olympian and I'm not one of the Hemsworth brothers, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not making money how I look.
So you've been in finance for 30 plus years. Tell us about your work. Do you enjoy it? Is it busy? Is it stressful?
I love what I do. I mean, I started in the bank as a young guy and studied part-time, and, you know, I thought in those days, back in 1986, I thought if I'm not running Westpac by the time I'm 40, you know, I'll stand up rooting in George Street. It would be that easy. Then the world changed and people never left banks in those days, and I got a couple of opportunities, but the best thing I ever had in the world of finance was having a couple of good mentors. So it sort of just flowed. It's been a long road, but in reflection, you look back, it was by just hard work and discipline and some good decisions. But I love helping people, and I managed to get into a few other businesses by that, probably because I've got a practical approach to things, and I'm good at managing crisis sometimes. But yeah, you know, with First Point and MAS, I love what I do, and I love the people I work with. Small businesses are fun businesses because small business problems are hard problems to fix. They're not like a massive corporation where you just throw money at it and then you hide it, and it's not shareholder money, it's real money. So small business problems, you only get one chance to fix them, you don't get 3 or 4. So I enjoy that challenge, and you know, I can only see that I've got, you know, plenty of time left for that, and I've got plenty of ideas left in me. So business-wise, mentally, mental agility, I feel better than I've ever felt.
Do you get stressed much, and how do you handle that?
I think I do get stressed, but I don't know how I internalise it. I always think, you know, still tongue, wise head, keep a smile on your face under pressure. And these days, instead of reacting, I sleep on something. I generally go with the flow, because I think the next day the solution sort of finds you. The minute you pick up a phone or send an email under stress, all you do is actually compound. You get 1 minute of satisfaction and you get like another 10 days of problems that you've caused yourself. Which is, I don't know how people haven't worked that out, but if you sit on something, or if bad news finds you, or the outcome finds you that you're not expecting, don't react straight away, because the answer is not the first or the second or the solution that's sitting in your head then, because it's usually like it's a hasty decision. And I've made plenty of hasty decisions in life, but you've got to live by the sword and die by the sword. I've made plenty of mistakes, but you know, as Kerry Packer used to say, you've only got to get 6 out of 10 right.
What about, you touched on helping people, and I'm trying to think of a better way to say it. Like, I was going to say you're a bit of a suck up for helping people, but you rarely say no. I mean, is that part of your makeup? Like, I mean, I know you're good at it, but do you ever feel like, you know, not helping someone, or do people come to you for help a lot? I suppose I'm asking because one of the themes of my life is support. Like, I've received a lot. I also like to give a lot. But where do you see helping people? Is it a part of your life philosophy?
I think it's not. I think it's got to be in your nature, and I don't know how it came about that way. I didn't want to be, you know, I'm not sort of, you know, I'm not a benevolent society. I help people that I can see are worthy of helping, but it's not something you focus on. It's just something, if you do the right thing. I've never ever thought about, oh, what's in it for me, you know, if I do something for someone, because I've always found that if you do something for someone, it's pass it on. I've always been lucky in life. When you least expect it, something turns or something happens. It's good that was been happening for a while. So by helping people through life, you know, I expect that, you know, good things will happen to you, but life's not a bed of roses either. So I just try to do the right thing generally, if I can. And if it flows on to helping someone else, you know, I think a lot of people that know me, I'm not legitimately a person that gets jealous of anyone or anything. I'm generally pretty happy for people to do well. And the people that I know that have done exceptionally well have always been very generous with their time, and they've been good to me. So I've got that as a payback, which makes me really happy.
What about, I mean, we talk a lot about business, and then we talk a lot about health and fitness, and for me the third big one is family. That's always been a constant for you. You got April there, and you got Jack. Is he like 23 now? Remy must be about 21. Yeah, is that right?
Rem's 21, Jack's 24, April's 39. Yeah, family's good. We were lucky enough, April and I, to meet really at a young age, and got engaged at a young age. And I always say they should have called docs the day we had to put the bins out. I was 23 or something. So family's important. You know, family's always important to anyone, but family's like, it's not like the Brady Bunch either. Like, every family is like, there's always crisis, and there's always good and bad times in families. And you know, we're lucky enough that we've had a lot more good than bad over the years. But we're getting to that age now where we're getting older. I'm getting older, and you know, the people that we love in our lives are getting older, and the natural order is that they're going to pass away. So that sort of means that, as you lose grandparents and even great-grandparents that, my children have been lucky enough to have, that's the natural order, and that to me is a good thing, because, you want that to happen, because it's the alternative is catastrophic. But I've been lucky to have a blessed life with family and everything else, for with health and wisdom and everything else.
You've had your fair share of good holidays.
Yeah, plenty of good breaks and plenty of good times and plenty of laughs. But like anybody, when the kids are young, I always say to people, you go away and as the dad, you're jamming your finger in a pram and you're shouting like Homer Simpson at the top. So it's not like it's, as I said, it's never like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Your best mate and business partner, 25 years, Brett Hartley, a couple of years ago, contracted brain cancer.
Yeah.
And he probably passed away within a year. Was it?
Oh, you got a bit longer. You got a couple of years. Yeah, Brett Hartley was my best mate and also my business partner. So it was like I was one of those guys that would probably not do something by myself. So we were like, one was the accelerator, one was the brake. We're a really good team. And he contracted brain cancer, but you don't know anything about that when you get it. But it's pretty final, and he had a grade 4 glioblastoma, which was, you don't Google it when it's there, but Brett put up a good fight for over 2 years, and at the age of 47, and 3 young boys, he passed away. So that was never on the horizon. It was like I think in the nothing's like the books. It was maybe like Butch and Sundance, you ride off into the sunset, but that didn't get to happen. But you know what? You realise in life you get thrown curveballs. It was a terrible thing at the time, and it's still terrible now for a lot of people involved in it. But out of that, you take a lot of solace in other things, and you learn a lot more about yourself. I think you slow down. You should look at life differently, but at times you don't look at it differently, because talk's cheap. But you definitely have a lot of good memories, and you have a lot of good lessons in life from that, and you expect that you take that forward. But yeah, Brett was a ripper, and it was a sad loss to me, and it was something that was never expected. But I think in some ways it might define me in some ways in work and business.
What about, back to the endocrinologist, change of pace? Like, he did recommend a drug called Saxenda that you took for a while, and you got some good weight loss results, but then you stopped taking it and you kept losing the weight. Like, it wasn't so much a placebo, was it? Or did you take it? And
No, I think it works. I think for me it works, but I know other people, there's a few other ones there, but I think that it's, I think that it can be a bit of placebo as well, because I think that you're doing something to achieve goals, because I've got a couple of mates I've put onto it that hasn't worked for them. But I think when you go to a doctor and they give you something, you want it to work because you're turning up. So I think there's a bit of placebo involved, that you're going to do a bit extra, that you don't want to, going on a PT, you can get some really good results for the first 4 or 6 weeks, but doing it for 2 years, sometimes if you're not a natural athlete and you're not going at level, you can fall off the wagon again, because your body gets, as you get older, you get injuries as well. Like you've got a guy or a girl there that's super fit between 30 and 40 that's got you doing things that you'd never do before, but all of a sudden your body breaks down, and then that's the biggest risk with PT. So yeah, I reckon you've got to get the balance right with good medical advice as well.
So earlier we touched on things like deadlifts, and your approach to exercise has changed a lot in the last 5 years. Did that take some getting your head around? I mean, you would throw around a kettlebell in the past, or go for a little road run, but every time you do it, something seems to go on you, and now you want to be strong for your golf and
for life. You want to get fit for life, and kettlebell swings, deadlifts. I had a bad lower back anyway, but it was never working for me. You had to go along and do this. I think this new thing's HIIT, H-I-I-T. And for me, it didn't work. At a certain age, it doesn't work for you. But I was always a runner and that sort of stuff to keep. Used to rip weight off, and I've had a few comebacks at running, but it just jars me up. And deadlifts and kettlebells, all it did was damage my lower back. I'd get out of bed like I was 85. And I just made the point that anything that's going to hurt my lower body or make me feel real sharp pain, I'm never doing again in my life. So kettlebell swings and deadlifts and anything heavy on the lower body in the joints, that's gone now. It's more about flexibility. That's why things like Pilates and that sort of stuff is far better for your body, and stretching, but also things that you enjoy doing. If you get there and you're dreading going there, don't do it. Find something else.
So high intensity exercise, smashing yourself, getting your heart rate through the roof doesn't always equate to weight loss?
I don't think it does. It makes you hungrier. And then you tick a box and go, I did the best hit out. You can do like a 50-minute hit out. It's the best hit out you've ever done. And you can be big doing it, but all of a sudden you've warranted that I can eat like anything I want this morning because one, I haven't eaten and I'm starving, and two, I've exercised like a track star. So I'm going to go and eat whatever I want. So I don't think it does. And for me, for other people it might.
No, well, I know it doesn't. I just wanted to get your opinion on it. But, you know, we say that some people think, there's the old saying, nutrition is 70% of weight loss, but I always think it's closer to 95 because I see people exercising 7 times a week and not losing weight because the nutrition's not right, unless you're going to try and be the first human being in the history of existence to lose weight while consuming more calories than you're expending.
Yeah, I know.
But, no, I just think you've nailed the formula now for yourself, and I do think it is different for everyone. Like with everyone, there's a little key that unlocks the door to big results with
and it's timing too.
Nutrition. Yeah. Jim, what do you mean by that?
Well, you've got to have the time in your life. At certain stages, you're young and you're busy and you haven't got the time, so you've got to be smart with your time. 7 days a week, some people love it because it's a really big part of their life.
What, their exercise?
Yeah, their exercise, and I enjoy it because it makes me feel good, but it's not a massive part of my life. It's a part of life that's a necessity, so you better eventually get close to it, even if it's low impact, because if you don't, you know, everybody's going to get old if you're lucky, and you want to be an old person that can move around, have flexibility, be able to get up and down out of a seat, all the basic stuff as you get older.
Yep. No, I agree, mate. But that's pretty much all the questions I want to ask you, except the last curly one, you know, where you've got the 2 years to live. And you can do whatever you like. How would you spend your time?
Oh, mate, I'm very content in life. I always say I like mediocrity because every now and again I surprise myself a couple of times a year. I wouldn't want to go and, there's not anything that money would do for me to be spending time with my family and doing exactly what I do and keeping it as normal as possible, like maybe do a bit of travel, but there's nothing you could do that I'm not doing now that I don't enjoy. I love my life, you know.
Mate, that's a good place to be. But thanks for your time today, mate.
No worries, thanks, Scott. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.